Well, let's get started. Everybody, hello, good evening. Thank you so much for attending tonight's webinar. Welcome to Data Centers 101, Community Impacts and Protections in Colorado. This is part two of a three-part series on data centers, including the risks to communities, what's happening in Colorado, and what you can do to protect yourself and your family. My name is Sarah Kunzler. I'm the Colorado State Director for Mountain Mamas. We work for a future with clean air and water for our families, climate justice for all communities, and a healthy planet for future generations. And I'd like to thank all of the organizations that helped make this webinar possible. I hope I don't forget anybody, but we have Conservation Colorado, Physicians for Social Responsibility, Together Colorado, Black and Brown Parents United Foundation, Healthy Air and Water Colorado, the Greenhouse Connection Center, Moms Clean Air Force, GES Coalition, and many other partner organizations that are working on this issue, working to protect ratepayers, our climate, and our public health. So just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions as we go along, feel free to put them in the Q&A. And we have folks who are going to help answer those as we go along, but we will have time at the end for questions. So feel free to write them as we go so you don't forget them, but we also can try and answer them as we go. And as before we dive into our agenda, I'd like to introduce Crystal, who is our interpreter this evening, and I'd like to invite her to give a language justice statement.
Thank you, Sarah. So I will be giving a language justice statement and instructions in both English and then in Spanish. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Crystal Mauricio. I'm part of the Community Language Co-op and I'll be your interpreter for today. We'll be practicing language justice so that everyone can have the opportunity to speak and listen in the language that they feel most comfortable with. Whenever interpretation is activated, you are going to go to the bottom of your screen and it should be the globe icon. From there, you can select it and choose your language. If you're on a laptop or phone or on a web or phone and you can't find the globe icon, you should select the one with the three dots. It should give you more options and interpretation should be one of those options. Please be mindful on how fast you speak, as Spanish can take about 20% longer to translate the same message. So thank you very much. Hola, mi nombre es Cristal Mauricio, vengo parte de la CLC y seré su intérprete de hoy. Hoy vamos a practicar justicia del lenguaje para que todos tengan la oportunidad de hablar y escuchar en el lenguaje que se sientan más cómodos. Para activar interpretación, seleccione el botón con una esfera como un mundo terráqueo abajo de su pantalla de Zoom. Si no lo encuentran, seleccione el botón con tres puntitos y ahí debe de ser una de las opciones. Por favor, de cuidar el paso en que hablan para que pueda interpretar con eficaz. Gracias. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Crystal. Okay, let's just chat quickly through our agenda. We could go to the next slide. Megan, can we move to the next slide? I'm not seeing it if others are. Apologize. Oh, thank you. All right, so this is our agenda for this evening. We will move into a land acknowledgement next, and then we have a couple of examples of local actions that are happening right now in Colorado. One in Weld County, one in Denver, and one in Aurora. So we have folks that will be speaking on those campaigns and how you can help. We talked a lot last time about state legislation, so we'll give an update and an urgent update and call to action on that, along with some work that's happening at the Public Utilities Commission. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we'll end with a Q&A section. So that's our agenda for the evening. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Shayna with Moms Clean Air Force for land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Shayna Oliver. I am with Moms Clean Air Force, one of the moms with our Colorado chapter. I'm also an Indigenous Peoples' Rights advocate and enrolled member of the Navajo Nation of Shiprock, New Mexico. I work and reside here in Denver, Colorado, working on environmental justice issues. And I will start off with the land acknowledgement. Moms Clean Air Force, we acknowledge, and as well as our community partners, we acknowledge that we are on the stolen lands of over 574 federally recognized tribal Indian nations that hold ancestral ties to these lands now known as the United States. And we work and reside directly on the lands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and 48 First Nation tribes that once occupied the state of Colorado. And making a land acknowledgement is not enough to ensure that we must also be mindful that we're also taking action and supporting tribal sovereignty in the work that we do, especially pertaining to climate justice and environmental justice. And now I will hand it off to Lori Anderson.
Before that, sorry, Lori, just 1 second. Wanted to quickly, before we dive too far into our agenda, wanted to just give a quick recap of what we talked about in our first webinar. So I'll just quickly kind of go through that and then we'll hand it over to Lori. So in our last webinar, we examined the rapid growth of data centers and the risks they pose to our communities, our public health, and our household costs. And we will share a link to that webinar in our follow-up. So you have it if you haven't already received it. And we covered what data centers are and why they matter. They've long been essential to our digital lives. They've been around for decades, from cloud storage to remote work and streaming. It's how we're, it's helping us be on this webinar tonight. But the rise of AI is driving a surge in massive hyperscale data centers, which require enormous computing power. And while, the benefits of AI are debatable, it does definitely bring an increased resource use and broader societal impacts. We also talked about environmental and health concerns. Data centers consume large amounts of electricity, often from fossil fuels, contributing to air pollution, which is linked to, of course, serious health conditions. And in places like Colorado's Front Range, we are already facing high ozone layer levels, and this added pollution is a significant concern for those of us who live here on the Front Range. Heat and pollution also reinforce each other, increasing energy demand and worsening health risks. Water use is, I'm sure, top of mind for everybody on this call, with the non-winter that we experienced here in Colorado, and we're all tightening our water use. And data centers place massive strains on water supplies. So we talked about that. And at the same time, the data center's energy demand can drive up electricity costs, putting that burden onto ratepayers and forcing households to make difficult financial choices. We also highlighted equity concerns, as these facilities are often built in disproportionately impacted communities. For example, the Coreside project in Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, is a key local example. On policy, which we will dive into again tonight, we discussed two contrasting bills that are live right now in the legislative session. House Bill 1030 would grant long-term tax breaks without strong protections for communities. And Senate Bill 102, which our coalition is supporting, would require large energy users to cover their costs, meet standards for renewable energy, have transparency, and a community voice. And, really the key takeaway of our first webinar was that, AI is fueling the growth of these hyperscale data centers, and without thoughtful policy, those shifts, those costs are going to be shifted onto communities. So tonight's webinar, we're going to be providing updates on state legislation. There are 10 days left in the legislative session, so now is a very critical time for folks to be weighing in, as you'll learn. And we'll also talk about local action that you can take to protect your community. So with that, I will hand it over to Lori.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Good evening. I'm Lori Anderson with Moms Clean Air Force, and thank you so much for being here tonight. Moms Clean Air Force is a community of more than 1.5 million parents across the country, including over 45,000 right here in Colorado, all united around one simple idea: every child deserves clean air and a safe, healthy future. We support moms, dads, and kids in building strong, science-based protections from air pollution and climate change at every level of government. And that mission is what brings me to tonight's presentation on data centers. Next slide, please. Tonight, I want to highlight how we can empower local action while also recognizing that Colorado urgently needs statewide guardrails for large-scale data centers. Over the past few months, we've seen communities forced to mobilize quickly as new data centers are proposed, since state regulations haven't yet been established. Once residents understand what's at stake, engagement must often happen very swiftly. Local voices matter, and local governments play a critical role in shaping what gets built, where it goes, and how it affects nearby neighborhoods. But at the same time, data centers bring statewide impacts on water, electricity, ratepayers, and our climate goals. That's why many advocates argue that a consistent statewide framework is needed, so communities aren't left to navigate these issues one at a time or scramble to get up to speed on highly technical topics. In this presentation, I'll walk through one community's response and why statewide guardrails are needed now. Next slide, please. Data centers are already coming to Colorado, even without any proposed state incentives. What we're seeing now is a wave of development that's moving forward under existing rules, and in some cases, with very little public awareness. Several major facilities are already under construction. CoreSite is expanding in Denver, its Denver DE3 campus. QTS is building a large facility in Aurora. That's the project shown in the photo here. And FlexEssential is constructing a new site in Parker. On top of that, we are aware of multiple planned or proposed projects. Global AI has submitted a proposal in Weld County, which we will look more closely at in the upcoming slides. Vantage is planning an expansion of its CO2 campus, and Microsoft has purchased land in Aurora. This build-out is happening now across multiple jurisdictions without state incentives, and before statewide guardrails have been put in place, and communities are being asked to respond project by project, often with limited information and very little time. Next slide, please. This case study focuses on Weld County, where residents recently learned about a proposal for a global AI data center. Global AI purchased 3 parcels in unincorporated Weld County. The area is shown here in red and orange. And then the blue is the town of Windsor wrapping around those properties. Even though the land sits in unincorporated Weld County, it is completely surrounded by the town of Windsor, including the Water Valley residential community, which only added to residents' concerns. The property is currently zoned light industrial, also known as I-1, which allows a range of lighter industrial uses. But what really caught the eye of some residents' attention was the county's original plan to change an ordinance called 2601, which you'll hear more about in the upcoming slides, so that data centers could be approved administratively. This is where the local government story begins, with a proposal that could have moved forward, mostly behind the scene. Next slide, please. And here again, we'll look at that property that Global AI purchased. It was formerly known as the Kodak and Carestream Industrial Property. This is a massive site with existing buildings and long-standing industrial permits. Because those buildings were already there, the company was allowed to begin site preparation under the existing permit. However, any new construction for a new use, including a data center, would still require a new permit. But as construction work was observed on the property, residents started asking questions. Many people assumed the project was already approved or that the data center was a done deal. The lack of clear information created confusion and concern, especially given the scale of the site and the speed of activity ongoing there. At the same time, the county was considering this ordinance 2026-01, and as originally drafted, approval of that ordinance would have effectively ended the public process, allowing data centers to move forward through administrative review and approval with no hearings and no opportunity for community input. Next slide, please. At the beginning of this year, community awareness was low and only a few people even knew a data center was being proposed. However, as residents reached out to environmental organizations like Moms Clean Air Force and others for assistance and became vocal on Reddit and other social media platforms raising concerns, awareness grew quickly. And what began as a couple of public comments at a hearing for proposed ordinance 2026-01 turned into a much broader movement. Many also began attending a series of biweekly community-focused meetings that Moms Clean Air Force and Healthy Air and Water Colorado helped convene. These meetings created a space for residents to share information, ask questions, and coordinate their engagement. While we helped facilitate the meetings, it was the strong showing of residents who wanted to empower themselves to take action that really made a difference. That level of organization and public interest pushed the commissioners to hold informational town halls. They held 2 of these, and residents really showed up. You can actually see this room full of residents. When we got there, there's just a few chairs. They did not anticipate this many people coming. And engagement with staff and commissioners continued well beyond these town halls. And ultimately, because of sustained constituent involvement, the county ultimately updated the proposed ordinance 2026-01 instead of approving it as originally drafted. Next slide, please. The proposed code change looked simple on the surface, just adding the words, as you'll see in red, data centers, to the list of allowed uses in agricultural and industrial zones. Screenshot on this slide shows exactly how small the change appeared for one of the zones. That was the light industrial zone, just 2 words. But those 2 words would have opened the door for large-scale data centers to be approved behind the scenes with no requirement for transparency or public engagement. Adding data centers as an allowed use meant they could be approved administratively. In other words, a project of this scale could move forward without a public hearing, without community input, and without any opportunity for residents to understand or respond to the impacts. This was obviously concerning to residents, as the change could have had major, long-lasting consequences for the community. Next slide, please. Most residents do not pay attention to the approval process that developments proceed through. This slide shows why the difference between site plan review and use by special review is so important. Under site plan review, approval is administrative. That means if a project checks the technical boxes, the county must approve it. There's no public hearing, no discretion, and no ability to say no, even if the project is right next to homes or would create air pollution, noise, or other impacts that could harm a nearby community. It's a compliance checklist, not a tool for evaluating real-world consequences. Use by special review is fundamentally different. It requires public notice and a public hearing, and it gives the county full discretion to approve, condition, or deny a project based on its impacts. If a facility would negatively affect nearby neighbors, whether through emissions, noise, traffic, or other burdens, use by special review allows the county to say no, this location isn't appropriate. and it enables enforceable conditions like monitoring, reporting, and ongoing compliance. Protections that simply aren't available under administrative approval. So the key point is site plan review forces approval. Use by special review allows thoughtful decision-making, real community protections, and the ability to deny a project when the impacts are too great. The verdict is still out for Weld County on whether or not this global AI facility will ultimately be approved, but at least it won't proceed administratively. Next slide, please. Here's where the Weld County case study ultimately landed. Ordinance 2026-01, as adopted, reflects both resident engagement and the county's deep commitment to protecting its agricultural heritage. This image here is taken during the hearing for that ordinance, and almost everyone in this audience was there because of data centers. Now, first, the commission removed data centers as an allowed use in agricultural zones. Weld County takes real pride in its farmland. It's a core part of the county's identity and economy. Protecting agricultural land also means protecting the animals that live and work on these properties. Noise from large-scale data centers can be disruptive to livestock and other animals. So keeping these facilities out of agricultural zones helps prevent those impacts. Second, the commissioners removed the use by right for data centers in the light industrial zones. So data centers in that zone would have to go through the use by special review. That means any proposal must go through a public hearing, and the county can add conditions or deny a project due to negative impacts, including concerns about air pollution, noise, and other impacts. This also matters for water. Agriculture depends on reliable, clean water, and data centers can place significant demands on local water supplies. The use by special review process gives the county the ability to evaluate those impacts before anything moves forward. And importantly, global AI, which is currently zoned light industrial, cannot move forward with administrative approval alone. They must go through that full use by special review process. Weld County residents worked incredibly hard to secure these protections, but not every community has the time, resources, or capacity to mobilize this quickly. That's why statewide guardrails are essential. Next slide, please. As we wrap up the Weld County case study, the broader lesson becomes clear. Local engagement can make a real difference, but communities shouldn't have to shoulder this level of effort every time that a data center is proposed. Colorado needs consistent statewide guardrails that protect public health, safeguard our limited resources, ensure fair treatment of ratepayers, and keep the state on track to meet its climate goals. First, we need baseline protections for public health and safety, including clear standards for air pollutants, noise, light, and other impacts. We must protect Colorado's limited water resources. Much of the state is experiencing extreme drought, and data centers can place significant demands on those same resources, so statewide oversight is essential. Colorado must continue working toward its greenhouse gas pollution reduction goals. Electricity generation is the state's largest source of greenhouse gas pollution, and if new data center load requires more coal or natural gas generation, it could increase emissions rather than reducing pollution. We also need to protect ratepayers by ensuring that large load power generation and transmission upgrades are paid for by the operator of the data center, not by households and small businesses. These are statewide challenges that require statewide solutions. And with that, I'll turn it over to Harmony.
Hello, everybody. My name is Harmony. I'm the director of the Greenhouse Connection Center located in North Denver's Elyria community. We pair music and the arts with elevating excluded voices in environmental and public health policy spaces. In just 2 blocks from us, they are building the CoreSite Data Center. I'm multitasking a little bit here. I put up some myths and some facts from Honor the Earth about water. Information is not readily available, and that's for a few reasons. One is because of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements that data centers can go into, not for water and for other things. Also, there's a lack of transparency because we're missing those reporting requirements. That is something that we're trying to get at the state level, local level, and all levels. But just as soon as we hear information about data centers, poof, the information is changing and technology is changing fast. When it comes to data centers, originally a lot of them have evaporative systems that were using and losing lots of water. They're now moving to closed loop systems as the industry norm, but in a blink of an eye or a butterfly wing, they're moving to direct to chip liquid cooling, and then soon, and in testing right now, in chip microfluid coolings that I don't even understand. But the biggest thing that we need to know is that things are happening quicker. They are becoming more efficient on the direct water used in these facilities. However, these methods use more energy, and the water created or the water needed to power these facilities is getting larger and larger, bringing us to the water energy nexus. Next slide, please. This chart is from Bluefield Research, and you can see along the bottom, the dark blue line at the bottom is how much water will be used directly in the data center to cool the facility and the chips and whatnot. But that lighter blue up above is significantly more. And that's the water that it takes to create the energy to power these facilities. Indirect water consumption is linked to electricity generation is expected to nearly double. By 2030, they estimate that 72% of total water consumption associated with data centers will occur off-site and be tied to electricity generation, more than double what is forecasted on the cooling demands. Data centers are expected to account for close to 9% of the total US electricity demand by the end of the decade, and I worry that it could be even higher. While data centers use water directly for on-site cooling, the rapid growth in electricity demand is driving up the sector's overall water use outlook. Power, not on-site cooling, is becoming the defining water risk for the data center industry. And near-term strategies for such as delaying coal plant retirements, recommissioning nuclear facilities, and the fast-tracking natural gas build-out carry significant water costs. And in sharp contrast, on-site water consumption for data center cooling is decelerating as operators transition to more efficient cooling methods and reclaimed water sources. The big AI gigafactories and hyperscale campuses are being designed from the ground up with closed loop cooling, advanced liquid cooling at the chip level, and reclaimed water integration. Next slide, please. Although that's a lot of information, and it's definitely a lot for my brain to process, something that's a little bit more simpler. And even though the amount of water used directly in the facility is becoming less, it's not actually becoming less because there's so many of these data centers coming on. One of the most successful places I've seen to do something about protecting communities and our water supply is Aurora Water. They have created this large water table. Along the slide, running up and down, that's how much water how many gallons of water a user will use. Across the top is how much water is not recoverable. So the more water that you use and the less that can be recoverable puts you into the dark red area. When you are in this dark red area, Aurora Water is saying that we will not supply water to you unless you do water conservation efforts and water treatments, bringing you up into these other light orange yellow areas. And what they have found is that the majority of data centers who've come to Aurora has said we do not want to take the time or effort to do that, and we'll go look somewhere else. I'm also hearing whispers at the same time that QTS, who's already building a 175 megawatt facility in Aurora, is looking for a second one there. And again, we all come back to that water energy nexus. As they use less water and become more efficient directly in the facility itself, they are using significantly water to power those facilities. And right now, renewable energy is not what they're looking to, as they need it to be more reliable, they say, for that. And it's quicker and easy for them to look into these coal plants like we're seeing. I hope and fear that it's not nuclear, but we're seeing a push here for that in Colorado, and also for natural gas. And Colorado is the third largest natural gas producer, gas producing state in Colorado. So something that we need to be mindful. And in Colorado, when we drill for oil and gas, the majority of the time, over 90% of the time, we use the fresh water one time and it becomes so contaminated that it goes deep down thousands of feet, comes back up whole, and then that water is taken and put into deep underground injection pits that are big concrete pits underground. We put a cap on it and we forever remove that water from our hydrological cycle. 90% of the time, that's what happens in oil and gas operations in Colorado. And I want that water back, but our Mother Earth needs that water back. And in these times, no one should be using the water once to the point of extinction. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, I work in North Denver's Elyria community. It is a beautiful community. There is lots of great creativity, arts, joy, gardens, happiness, and beautiful things. In addition, it's already one of the most polluted communities in the country. It sits on 2 EPA Superfund sites. It's surrounded by highways. The Purina plant, I don't know if anyone's ever smelled that driving through Denver, the Cherokee gas plant, and the Suncor refinery. So we are already in one of the most polluted communities with a very high EnviroScreen score. I want to take a minute to talk about one of these pictures. If you see the picture with the arrows of where it says there's the data center right there, there are the diesel generators, and less than 75 feet away is where they're building a nursing home. And to me, this is our local and state government failing to protect the people. And when the government fails to protect the people step up to protect the people. GES Coalition, neighbors, and supporting groups have been coming together to organize. We've been doing things called data center walk and talks, where we've brought in over 225 people, including city council members, state legislators, the head of Denver Department of Health and Environment, local government agencies, and over 65 students to come and stand right where the place is. And what do you see, smell, taste, hear? And I ask people to tap into their senses. And then I ask, what is our hardest sense to tap into? And from what I can tell, it's our common sense, because when I see things like this happening, it doesn't make any sense to me. The coalition and partners did a great job of coming up with a good neighbor agreement of what it would take for CoreSite to be a good neighbor. Things like air monitoring, noise ordinances. What do they process in these facilities, because they're private companies and we are in an immigrant community? Things that are not going to be used to harm the neighbors around us. And I think that that's really important to consider. I'll add a link to that in the chat when I'm done speaking, and also want to flag that I added that Aurora Water user table in the chat below as well. As I mentioned too, on one of the data center walk-in talks, one of the people that came out was City Council person Paul Cashman and his team, and now he's leading the charge on Denver's moratorium. What I think is really important to know, that a moratorium is not a ban. It is a temporary pause, and the Denver moratorium is not in place yet because City Council needs to vote to approve this on May 18th. So what we're asking for people to do is, please, if you live in the city of Denver, and I'll put these links in the chat as well, to please find your city council member if you don't know and contact them. If they're on social media, if they have town halls, that's the best. But an email, if that's what you can do, or sign up to give public comment as well. We'll keep people posted of more ways to get involved. Because this is really important that while this sorry, I'm backing up, getting ahead of myself. Um, Tell them to approve the moratorium and vote yes. But while this moratorium is in place, it's imperative that we don't make a checkbox list of things just to roll out the red carpet to data centers later. I think it's important for people to know that initially the mayor of Denver and the economic office offered CoreSite a $9 million tax incentive. The community had no notice of this project happening until the land was sold, the permits were in place, and the deal was done. There was no opportunity for us to ask for anything better than what we were getting. In addition, the state approved the air monitoring permits for these 14 diesel generators in already one of the most polluted communities, and again, in for sensitive populations. There is a park within 150 feet, a rec center, an affordable housing complex, and this nursing home. We were in a meeting with the city council person for this district trying to redesign an empty parking lot into a park. And the students and the high schoolers came up with a plan for what they want for this park. The students wanted a basketball court and some benches and a swing set. And the city councilman said, oh, well, if you want a swing set that close to the fence line, we're going to have to rezone this from industrial to a park. And I said, Councilman Watson, there are more considerations in the city of Denver on a swing set than there are for 14 diesel generators touching a nursing home. And that's where our government is failing to protect the people. It's why we need moratoriums at the local level and why we need to do everything that we can at the state level, because there's no way for us to get to know on these airport permits. It didn't matter that the EnviroScreen score was 96. It didn't matter that we're already incredibly polluted. It didn't matter how close we are to people in residential. Right now, there's no way for us to get to no to a permit, and there needs to come a point where we need to say this doesn't make sense. So again, at the Denver city level, I ask you to please reach out to your city council people. I'll put those links in the chat. Do everything we can at the state level. And also this week on May 7th, we're going to be hosting a meeting, a community conversation with council members. I'll put a link to sign up for that. It's going to be from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock this Thursday at Geotech. We would love to see you come out. And with that, I pass it over to Lauren.
Sorry. Hey, everybody, this is Lauren Swain. I'm Program Director for Physicians for Social Responsibility of Colorado. We're an environmental health group that seeks to have evidence-based policy to protect humans from the most egregious and harmful air pollution and other threats to our health in our from industry in our state. And that includes data centers. So I'm going to be telling you how pushing for state legislative and regulatory action can reduce data center impacts in Colorado through legislation and regulation. Next slide. So some of the local data center impacts we've been talking about are the land use, the local and regional air pollution that affects health, environmental justice, and healthcare costs, and the noise and light pollution, among others. Next slide. So, and as Harmony and others have mentioned, the CoreSite data center is in a disproportionately impacted community that is exposed to multiple pollution sources. Next. And this story in CPR News asked, does the AI boom threaten local air quality? A North Denver community is about to find out. And this article refers to the fact that 14 of these diesel generators will be emitting hazardous air pollutants into the air right next to all the facilities that Harmony mentioned. Go ahead to the next one. And this report from a few years ago talks about who bears the cost for all the things that all of us buy, whether it's gasoline or asphalt on the roads. It's this community, North Denver, is experiencing environmental injustice from multiple industrial pollution sources, while industry and consumers reap the benefits. Next. Oh, skip. So, as I said, the local health impacts, the worst are from the diesel generators that affect asthma, the worsen COPD and other respiratory conditions, and increase the risk of cardiovascular disease for neighboring residents. And again, we're mentioning, for example, these diesel generators in North Denver, affecting hundreds of homes and facilities. Next. And regional health impacts, the coal and gas power generation that's required sometimes by the excessive energy burdens from these data centers emit pollutants that harm respiratory and cardiovascular health across multi-county regions, including the Front Range 9-county ozone non-attainment area that many of us live in, and I live right here in Denver, and we are in a chronic situation of ozone non-attainment and suffering the health consequences every day, and this exacerbates that. Continue. So the Harvard Business Review, talking about a national report, says that these massive facilities not only strain already stressed power grids, but create air pollution and respiratory health consequences estimated to cost up to $20 billion per year in the United States by 2028. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And the noise and light pollution disrupts sleep and mental health. Obviously, if you have a noise overnight and a lot of health in excess light in your neighborhood, you won't be able to sleep as well, and that will affect your health and your mental well-being. Next. And the energy impacts also because of the extreme power generation and transmission needs of data centers. It raises energy costs for all consumers unless regulations prevent it. And the new hyperscale data center in Aurora uses a little less, but almost as much electricity as the entire city of Boulder uses. Next. And this was from my friend's original presentation, and I just thought it really depicts what we're facing here. They want power. They want power over us, and they want our power on the grid. And if we don't pass the guardrails, we're going to help subsidize their power in a number of ways that we don't want. Go ahead. So they can also slow progress on our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals, our climate goals. Next. We have Colorado is it's very forward thinking on its climate preparedness roadmap. And it looks like this slide doesn't show all the points, but the fact of the matter is that these excess energy burdens are going to make it difficult to meet our 2050 goal of 100% clean power generation if we don't pass the right legislation to stop it. Go ahead. Data center cooling systems demand huge amounts of water and use toxic chemicals. And as mentioned before, power generation uses massive amounts of water. Next. And the Globeville site uses as much water as 16,000 people per day. Next. I'm going through this because a lot of this was covered. So here is the main point. We're so very fortunate to have legislators who are thinking ahead and trying to reduce these impacts. And we have Senate Bill 102, SB 102, that would reduce health, climate, and consumer burdens of data centers in the following ways. It will limit the conditions under which you can use diesel generators, limit how many hours those generators can run each year, and require them to use the cleanest fuel available. And it makes these large data centers responsible for securing their own renewable energy resources. And that protects consumers because they're getting their own resources, and it protects our air quality, health, and climate. And it sets standards to help local governments address noise and light pollution impacts. Next. Not sure. Oh, SB 102 also provides guardrails to protect communities and track data center water use. So it promotes environmental justice by giving rights to disproportionately impacted communities to have community benefit agreement negotiations and environmental impact studies. And it requires tracking of water use, which will ultimately promote efficiency. There may be amendments to even strengthen water efficiency standards in the bill. Next. So the bad bill, Senate bill, I'm sorry, this is supposed to be House bill, HB 1030 would use tax breaks to attract more data centers, more of the problem that we're already struggling with. They want to attract more with 20 to 30 years of exemption from state sales and use tax. And this means $58 million out of our state budget in a time that we're trying to cut $1.5 billion from our 2027 budget. And the certifications, the standards that this incentive is supposed to inspire, meeting those standards will be managed by a new board in a promotional office in the state, not by the public utilities, not by the Department of Health, but by a new board that's charged with promoting data centers and not accountable to voters or answerable to community concerns. Next. So how to take action at the Colorado legislature. You can call, email, and engage your networks in contacting your legislators, but especially key committee members to stop HB 261030, the incentives giveaway bill, and pass SB 26102, the guardrails bill, and follow the progress of these bills through committees by going to the legislature website, searching on the bill number, or by staying in touch with our organizations for updates. And at each stage, at each committee, you can repeat and call and email key legislators and tell your networks to do the same. And I will put that action alert in the chat again here. If this is just send an instant message, but we should also be making phone calls and sending our own individual emails. So those are the main strategies in addition to testifying at committee hearings. So you can sign up to testify remotely or in person when these bills come up in committee. And right now, they are both bogged down. So it's a great time to get in touch with legislators and promote 102. And we're about to take action to do that. So next slide, please. Let's do it together. I just wanted to briefly mention that there is an agency, the Public Utilities Commission, that is also having a proceeding to protect consumers from the impacts of Excel's deals with data centers. But it's kind of a stay tuned situation, but we can all make public comment and through written comment or oral comment in public hearings to be announced. Okay, next. So this is our call to action today. And I hope you'll all join me in taking just a minute to call each of these legislators to tell them to pass SB 26102 to ensure a statewide baseline of protections from the impacts of data centers. There's a quick message there that you can use, or you can use your own words. And I'm going to start my timer here, and let's all make a phone call. And I'll make a phone call with you, but I'll put my audio off. So let's go ahead and take a minute to do that if that's good with everyone. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for taking a shot at that, and I urge you to continue to contact our legislators on this important issue. And now I will turn it over to Rachel for Q&A.
Hi all. So we had Troy put quite a bit in the Q&A and just kind of talking in terms of the all-encompassing long-term effects of AI and what all the little areas that it has impact in our lives, like counterintelligence and surveillance, and just the sheer amount of energy load, water use, etc. And then also an interesting idea about having AI as a public interest utility. Troy, would you like to tell us more about this? Feel free to come off mute.
Let's continue.
Not really. He doesn't. He's not good. He's good. Okay. That's fine, Troy. Do we have any other questions for our speakers today? We kind of threw a lot at you. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that we can think about is there are multiple layers to address your municipal layer, so your city layer, your state layer, your federal layer. So just kind of pinpointing and targeting your message as sees fit, because honestly, we need to be all hands on deck. All layers should be addressed. Harmony?
Thank you, Rachel. Something that you prompted me and something I forgot to say earlier is this moratorium vote is happening in Denver, but as you pointed out, this is happening to everyone everywhere across Colorado and the nation. And so even if you don't have an immediate moratorium vote, maybe you should have a moratorium vote. And that happens by giving public comment at your city council members, your county commissioners, giving them a call, sliding into their DMs, showing up at their town halls. So even if you are not in Denver, just adding on to what Rachel said, and definitely, no matter where you are in the state of Colorado, data centers are coming for communities everywhere, and really trying to get ahead of it the best that you can and make those relationships with those folks to push for moratoriums, zoning changes, and protections.
Yeah, another issue to kind of think about is these data centers and this AI, they've been planning this for about a decade. This isn't new to them. It seems really new to us. Things are just popping up out of nowhere without, community involvement and engagement. So it's really important to think about, okay, maybe I just need to be proactive. Maybe there isn't a data center being built next door, like unfortunately in GES there is, but maybe I just need to call and just make sure, just put that on the books. Like, hey, we need to stop. I don't want a data center in my community. And that, just go ahead and get that proactively talking about that. And so Harmony was talking about GES and Lori was talking about Weld County. I'm wondering if anybody has anything happening in their neck of the woods that they'd like to talk about. Yes. Thanks, Julie. Highlighting the meeting on the 7th at Geotech. Anything happening in other people's neck of the woods?
I see a question in the chat too, Rachel.
Oh, is there a list of legislators that have committed? And who are the ones who won't commit? Last, do we need to put pressure on Polis to sign if it comes to his desk? Yes, because Polis loves tech. He's a techie bro. He's been a techie bro forever, and he really does think that this is something necessary. So as Lauren talked about, we have two separate bills going on. So the 1030, that is in the House, and that is the bad bill that gives away all kinds of incentives and just doesn't really give us a lot of guardrails. And so all the people who are sponsoring that bill, and we might have to look that up real quick, but all the people that are sponsoring that bill should be addressed. Just say, hey, what the heck are you doing? That this isn't what we want at all. And then all the people who are sponsoring 102, which are that's the one that has the guardrails. We want to make sure that they get the support that they need. You guys, we're in the last week or so of legislative session, so it's kind of a race right now, and we need to really just be on every day. I'm looking at the at the website, the legislature website, to make sure that something new hasn't popped up. Sarah?
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I just wanted to add the urgency of the moment that we are in. As Rachel said, we have the last day of session is May 13th. That's next Wednesday. And there have been negotiations happening between industry, labor unions, utilities, mostly Excel, and environmental organizations. And we are at a standstill in terms of negotiations, in large part because the tech industry doesn't understand how Tabor works in Colorado, which is how our taxes are collected and what the state is allowed to spend. And they will not give in on tax incentives. And there is just no reasoning with that. And that's creating this cascade of problems where Excel won't get on board and labor won't get on board. And so the reason that we're asking folks to contact leadership in the House and the Senate is because what we've heard a lot from legislators when we're talking to them is we hear a deal is in the works. We're waiting for a deal, and there is no deal coming. We need leadership to step in, including Polis. So yes, please call Polis. Maybe somebody can throw his phone number in the chat while we're chatting, or I can do it next. We really need calls going into the Speaker's office in the House. That's Speaker McCluskey and President Coleman in the Senate, to ask them to make sure that we have a deal that includes safeguards, because we have legislators kind of all over the place. Some are pro-incentive, some are completely anti-incentive, some want to make sure that labor gets strong incentives and labor protections. Some want to make sure there's environmental protection. So there isn't just two sides. There's so many sides of this, and we have to have something by I think the 11th if we have a hope of getting something done. And I think somebody mentioned that there is discussion of a special session to deal with this, but we still have time to make this happen. But phone calls are going to make the difference. And I think the reason that we've been able to hold the line so well this year is because we have had an unprecedented amount of grassroots activism on this issue. People are really fired up. They're really upset about data centers when they know about them. And so it's working. We just have to keep going. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and please, and just echo the urgency of now is the time. If you're ever going to do something, now is the time. You can call right after this call. You will leave a message. You don't even have to talk to a live person. It takes less than a minute. So please do that tonight after this call.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out, there was a question, if 102 passes, can the governor veto it? Yes, he can. And then that would have, if they wanted to revoke that, they'd have to go through another process to have a majority of the Senate or the House vote on that again to kind of override that veto. So yeah, we need to be pressuring Polis as well. And Julie had a really good point about incoming candidates. I mean, right now we're kind of in that, that time where we're getting ready for primaries, voting's coming up. So if you're in these in these community meetings and there's a candidate, ask them point directly, like, hey, do you believe in data centers? Do you want to bring a data center to my community? It's good to get them on the record in public for those kinds of things. So yeah, guys, it's a lot. It's really heavy. And I just want to keep reiterating, like, this is, and Troy put that in some of his comments. It's just in everything. AI is just like, I don't need AI to tell me, to help me with my photos, for God's sakes. Like, I keep getting AI. Would you like AI to help you here? Would you like AI to help you here? No, I'm good. I can figure this out myself. Like, and again, the more we rely on AI, the dumber we get. So let's not be dumb. Let's make America smart again. Masa.
On that note, can I add one thing to that note too? For sure. I have young kids. I worry about the future. I worry about the dumbing down of society. I worry about automation. 2 weeks ago, I had the great privilege and honor to go to Atlanta to the Take Back Tech conference. And I left with two main takeaways. One, it's overwhelming. It is so intersectional. The surveillance state, the war complex, the environment, the speed at which it's all coming on, yes. And also, there were 400 people in the room who are fighting back against all these things and organizing and advocating. And this data center, AI, automation, workforce decline, dumbing down a society, surveillance state, war complex, collapse, chaos economy that the richest tech bros in the world are trying to force upon us is not inevitable. And I think it's really important that we remember that. And just as big and quickly that they are bringing on this reality that they're trying to bring for the future, we need to dream up and organize to something even bigger, more beautiful, systems of care. And I just am so grateful for everyone taking the time to be here on that and think bigger beyond what you could possibly dream of for the world you want to create instead. And that's where we need to go.
We had a question about public comment and helping out with public comment. And you are asking the right team right here, because we are basically the A team when it comes to public comment. So when we send out the follow-up email, we'll provide some resources, and any one of us, if you want to call any one of us to say, hey, can you want to look at this real quick and make sure it looks okay? I'm just going to speak for all of us. We'll say, yeah, sure. We'll look at it 100%. So you'll have resources to work with for sure. Any more questions? Any last thoughts from our speakers based on kind of, just something you might have forgot to say or you wanted to reiterate?
And I'm going to put a link to a fact sheet on the health impact of data centers and how SB 102 addresses that in the chat in a moment. And we'll put it in the follow-up email as well. But we do have that resource to share, and I'll share it in a minute.
Thanks, Lauren.
I want to add that with air quality being an issue in Northeast Denver, that like with development of data centers, there would be like increased diesel truck traffic, and we want to push. GES Coalition wrote a really great letter proposal of demands from the GES community, the Global Aleria Swansea, which you can find on their coalition website. That we do need to ensure that there are some type of protections for communities that are going to be most impacted by data centers, and that's why we're pushing for environmental commitments from our leaders to ensure that renewable energy is a part of their infrastructure and power source, and to pay for that themselves. impose increased air pollution in our communities, and to commit to our greenhouse gas reduction plan that Colorado already is in the process of implementing. And our energy sources have also committed to those commitments as well. So making sure that the Public Utilities Commission also hears your voice on these issues. But Governor Polis is also is a great source to push that with as well, ensuring that the PUC listens to our communities when it comes to protecting families from utility increases and protecting our children's health when it comes to air pollution.
And with just a lot of gratitude, thanks for being here tonight. You all could do a million other things, but you came here and you learned and you got active and made some calls. So I think tonight has been a great success, and I appreciate everybody for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much to our panelists. And we will be in touch with a wrap-up email and the recording of this webinar, as well as the recording of the first one. And keep an eye out for further webinars and communications on this issue. Regardless of what happens in the legislative session, we will be continuing to work on this at the local level, probably at the state level. So lots more to come. And again, make your calls when you get off the phone tonight, and let's keep going. We got this. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining.